Hello everyone, welcome back to the ReactJS course. So in the last video, we have set up our first Firebase project inside of Firebase. So you need to have a Google account to do so. And we had this ReactJS project, which is empty for now. So we have this app.js, which is empty. And we have created a Firebase.js file where we added these couple line of codes, which were provided to us by Firebase initializations. And please, a mistake of mine was to add this Firebase.js file inside the Firebase dash project, but it needs to be added inside of the source folder. So please do so. Do fix the issue to not get any errors. Okay. So now let me go back to Firebase, and that is as we mentioned earlier that you can add how many you can add a couple of apps inside of one project, and every app can share the same database of another project. So let's say, for example, you have a company that has a website or a web app and also a mobile app. So you can register these two apps inside of one project to be able to use the same database. Now, let me go to Firestore database. And if you do recall, when we first introduced databases, we had two different databases. We had NoSQL and SQL databases, or if you want, relational and non-relational databases. For relational databases, which is SQL, there are organized database in tables. We have rows and columns. But in Firebase, we are not going to use tables. Instead, we are going to use non-relational databases, which are collections and documents that are mapped in a kind of a JSON format. So a collection is the same as a table inside of SQL, and a document is the same as if you want, a row. And inside of a row, we can have fields which are the columns that we are going to use. So let's try to map the NoSQL database to an SQL database. So let's say, for example, I'm going to start in by a collection. I'm going to name it users, so it's the same as having a table named users. I'm going to have an auto ID. So if you do remember, in SQL, we had these IDs 1, 2, 3, and I can add in the feature of auto increment. So whenever I add in the new user, it auto increments an ID by itself. So now I want to have a random ID. And let's say, for example, I want a first name and a last name. Excuse me. Okay. I'm going to add my last name, and let's add an age. And I wanted to change the type to a number, obviously. Okay. And I'm going to save that. So we are going to have an organized, if you want, NoSQL data schema, where we have this collection users, which has inside of it a document with it's an auto ID, it's a random document that has inside of it fields, first name, last name, age. You can add how many documents that you need inside of a collection, and that maps to the rows inside of a SQL database. And inside of each document, it can have a field. And of course, after that, we are going to see that inside of a document, we can also have another sub collection. Now, let me go back to the Firebase.js, and let us try to manipulate or even retrieve this document that we have just created from our React app. Okay, so first of all, let me go to the Firebase.js and import get Firestore from Firebase/Firestore. Okay, and I'm going to import also doc. Let me not import this from now, and let me add in this db instance get Firestore app. So what does this db instance means? It means it is the instance of the database that I have here inside of my project. So let's say, for example, I want to manipulate this database that I have here. I want to add data, retrieve data. I need to be using this db reference that we have here. So that is why I need to export db to be able to use it inside of our frontend. Okay, now everything is done from the Firebase.js side. Now inside of app.js, I'm going to import some of couple of things from the Firebase/Firestore. So since we have installed Firebase inside of our project, we can use whatever the dependency can offer to us. So I'm going to import doc and get doc. Oops, excuse me. Okay, from the mouse today is okay. So Firebase / Firestore. Okay, perfect. And I'm not gonna add something inside of the front end. I'm just going to add a use effect. So whenever whenever the app renders, I want to let's say for example render a document inside of the on the browser or inside of the console. So use is not defined. So let me import use effect from React. Alright, so now inside of the use effect, first we are going to add in a document reference of the document that we need to retrieve. So let's say, for example, of course, since we are retrieving from Firebase, so these are asynchronous commands. So I'm going to add an async here, okay, to have it more. No, it's not from Firebase though. Okay, and let me first add in the reference. Excuse me, of the document, so docref, and I'm going to use doc db the the collection users, and I need to give it the ID of the document I want to retrieve, which is this one. All right, and then since I have now the reference of the document itself, I'm going to get this document. I'm going to have another reference called docsnap, and I want to name it as await get docref. Excuse me. All right, and finally I want to print or console.log docsnap.data. Okay, perfect. So db is not defined because we haven't imported db from Firebase. So let's try to import this db from Firebase. Okay, perfect. Now let's try to go into our React app, open up the inspect elements and the console.log, and let's see if we can get. Okay, so as we can see here, we got the first name, last name, age from the object that we had in the document, or if you want, the fields that we had in this document. So that is a simple example on how to retrieve elements from a database inside of Firebase. So that was it for this video. Now we are sure that we are using this database inside of this project by having the configurations done and everything done. So in the next videos, of course, we are going to try and add values into this database and also be using other services offered by Firebase. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask your questions on the comment section, and I'll see you in the next video.